continued ability to do business. So during disruption, what are my plans? What are the plans? What are the alternatives that I have to continue operations? Now, to recover from disaster, we can resume operations, what we will call, for example, during this pandemic, be our new normal. That's also included in the plan. But the essence of the business continuity, taking up from where Yamu left, is to ensure that during any kind of disruption, major crisis, flood, power outage, in Africa, for example, where you are currently, Mr. Njai, you know that you can go for a whole day or two without NAWEC. That's part of business continuity plan. That's how easy it should be. It's not just waiting for a pandemic. But if we have power outages, how does that affect my core business? And how is that going to play on my credibility and the loyalty of customers? So what are my alternative plans? So it should be institutionalized and be part of the business processes. I like the fact that she emphasized on proactive versus reactive. This is why we advise ministries and agencies we work with to conduct an annual review and a risk management exercise, where they identify these threats and come up with a mitigation plan that they implement as they go on, which is also part of the overall business continuity management process. She also talked a lot about the document. I mean, I like to emphasize on the process and the mindset than the document, because as we always say in planning, it's the process that is more important. Who is involved? What is the mindset of the people? Because, for example, certain disruptions or certain events, you don't even have access to your building. So this document should be ingrained in the brains of everybody. Brain, own it, and be part of the process. That's very important than keeping a document in a drawer. I mean, you brilliantly said it, but I wanted to add the fact that I emphasize a lot on involvement, training, and in the testing, where you also update this process. To come back to your question, Mr. Njai, this pandemic is a bit, if you put it in context, there are a lot of external factors that businesses will not control. So it will not be your normal business continuity planning processes because, for example, if I take a case of my business in the Gambia, there are government regulations we need to respect. If government says there's a state of public emergency, only core businesses or important services will be open. I have to close my business and look at alternatives like teleworking or home working. So I'm already affected by a pandemic, which is a global effect, like the first speaker just said about global supply chains being affected, global businesses, interconnectedness of businesses. So the pandemic is really, really typical, if you like. It's a very unique case scenario, which, for example, countries like the Gambia have not experienced, or Senegal have not experienced. We always go through the routine process of risk management, having business continuity plans, especially for global companies. But managing in this pandemic, from the morale, from the motivation, from the other regulations that are there, it's very difficult. So what I have seen, or what could happen, is that businesses focus on core businesses. What are your core businesses? Having done your impact assessment, looking at the areas that you cannot afford to leave, so that you continue minimal operations, to ensure that customer loyalty is there, getting them informed, getting everybody involved, especially it's being a pandemic that has affected almost every business or every individual. So from your impact assessment, you would have identified what are the areas that have more impact on your business, and how do I ensure that there are minimal activities on that to ensure that the credibility of my business, the loyalty of my customers, for example, is sustained. So, for example, a coffee shop in Gambia may not be affected on the scale of certain businesses that have to deal with individuals, or that have a lot of traveling, like my business. 80% of it's traveling consulting. So what do? You have to devise alternative strategies during this period and look at what can be done remotely. And I think Lydia mentioned that it's not only looking at it from the perspective of risk, but opportunities. So for businesses like training institutions, what I have seen, it has created the opportunity to create platform, IT platform, delivering training and services online and doing a lot of, business conferences and meetings online. So developing their platforms on that as an alternative source of delivery, I considered it as an opportunity, and I have seen a lot of businesses developing those competencies around them. So exactly to answer your question, I think during this pandemic, we wanted to ensure that the business continues, but on essential services, because most of the issues are external, externally driven. WHO guidelines, social distancing, minimal services, government regulations, SOPs being declared. So we're a bit overwhelmed, and 80% of it is out of the control of businesses. So that's why you will see that there were relief packages for businesses, because it's not a normal thing that will happen. We can guard a lot against flood or storm or IT problems that are IT, or the global pandemic where your clients are affected, where your staff are affected, both health-wise and morale. This is why you've seen that governments have intervened to have relief packages, because there are restrictions and obligations and guidelines to follow. So that's what